Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and stay tuned by clicking the bell icon. Heartstopper 8 Affirmative. Yes, good, not sure. Heartstopper, a series based on Alice Osman's excellent comic book, debuted on Netflix last year and was an overwhelming success, not only among young people. The older viewers, myself included, were moved by the wonderful story of queer love and friendship in adolescence, while wishing they could have experienced it all. While the first season focused on the romance between the popular rugby player, Nick Kit Connor, and the only openly gay student at the school, Charlie Joe Locke, the second season had a much more difficult task, showing how to maintain and make it livable. Form a relationship, and as we know, magic has no greater enemy than reality, on the screen as well as in life. A second season is like a second novel or a title defense in sports. The creators usually have a bigger burden on their shoulders because of the previous feat. Thus, they can easily become convulsive, and moreover, they can also fluctuate in how much they should stick to the well-established recipe, and how much they should show something new. Perhaps this is also why the second element of any music, book, film, series is rarely explosive. The truth is that sometimes you have to get over the second, or use it for investment or construction. And duties, problems, and in general, the people around them inevitably appear with greater weight in the boy's world. At the same time, the series itself expands. It takes a larger arc in space. The British teenagers go on a summer trip to Paris, and in time, pains and traumas from the past come to light. And it also begins to put the other characters in a situation and make them truly worthwhile. Trans girl L, Yasmin Finney, learns to trust that she can be safe outside of her close circle of friends. Bookworm Isaac, Toby Donovan, gets to know the idea that sex and romance do not play an important role in everyone's life, and that some people don't want it at all, and that's perfectly fine. Tao William Go learns what is the loss that makes him defend his friends so loudly and sometimes perhaps too fiercely. But we also meet completely new characters. The iron-faced but sensitive teacher, Mr. Farouk, or the girl's classmate, the cool guitarist, Sahar. Meanwhile, Nick and Charlie begin to explore sexuality. Many people say that the series could have been braver or more realistic in this regard. After all, it is about two teenage boys who are head over heels in love, but who can't get any further than kissing and cuddling. At the same time, it is worth considering that 18 to 19-year-old actors play 14 to 15-year-old characters, to be precise. Charlie turned 14, and Nick will be 16. Of course, it's also true that Heartstopper isn't euphoria or sex education. Here we see teenagers who are still happily running around like puppies, and instead of drugs, they're mostly hooked on Oreos, Nick. Another issue is that above a certain level, which it brings in plenty, it might not even have to be good. Perhaps the point is not some kind of nebulous aesthetic quality, but that the series exists. Because in a world where prejudice still condemns many LGBT youth to hiding, mental isolation, and loneliness, where hatred often leaves them mentally and physically unsafe, where foolish and power-hungry politicians gloss over books about them and potentially about them, they try to make their community invisible and make their future impossible. In such circumstances, this series gives hope. It heals even after the fact, because it creates the LGBTQ version of the traditional representation of adolescence, the first kiss, the first date, the first prom, seen 1,000 times, yet never boring, lovely cliches. Because now you see a boy confusedly inviting another boy to the prom, and at the top of the stairs a radiantly beautiful trans girl walks in front of us, and we, along with her suitor, drop our jaws or our breasts swell as we feel the parents' pride. Our hearts don't stop, they start beating, because this series celebrates queer joy despite all the difficulties and makes us believe that even if we are not straight or cisgender, we're not doomed to misery at all. We won't have to hate ourselves even if others do. But if we find our communities, our lives can indeed be wonderful. But Heartstopper also provides pointers for cis-hetero people on how to be supportive. For example, there is one of my favorite characters, Imogen, who is your typical cis-straight friend who says awkward things all the time, but is so kind and loving that you just love her. Maybe it's because when he can't find the words, he just asks if he can hug him. It is also worth highlighting Nick's mother, who is played by Oscar winner Olivia Colman. She rarely appears on the screen, but then she gals the fact that all teenagers should watch Heartstopper, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Oh, Bet's referee, you are so wrong. Because this is the series where the characters, before kissing their partner's neck, ask if it's okay. Where you see a pattern of what to do, If you notice that the other person has problems with eating, they fast all the time. Where it's only natural that you can also engrave your boyfriend's name on a lock, because you understand that apart from love, there are other significant human relationships that also need to be nurtured in order to function. Or the Chinese-American boy's mother is the most warm-hearted and emotional character, even though Asian people have been portrayed in films so far as objective and cold, or they were the martial artists and the villains. I wrote about this topic here before. Heartstopper also shows how coming out is a layered process, and that you don't owe it to anyone, especially not an abusive or neglectful parent. Or how often bisexual people are viewed as gay or straight depending on their partner's perceived gender, and how painful it can actually be if they are misrecognized. But what is perhaps the biggest novelty in the series is the relationship to the issue of forgiveness. Heartstopper says that even if someone apologizes, you don't have to forgive them. The fact that the person utters this word does not nullify the harms he previously suffered because of it, even if he himself has problems. An apologist does not automatically enter safe spaces, a house party, and immediately or ever gain access to the inner lives of the people they have abused. You don't have to let in someone you don't want, someone you don't feel safe with. This also applies to sneaking in, for which more and more people are now using the term invite in. Heartstopper also invites you into its own world, a glitter-dusted and ice cream-flavored queer universe, between sparkling colors and cool indie hits, where the characters are at once playfully childish, and at other times, with a slight exaggeration, speak like graduate psychologists. And although you may sometimes get bored here or get annoyed at something, the fact is that even in the midst of the most serious problems, you're remaining hopeful because you know that your friends are with you. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share.